The sun was setting over County Down when W.J. Fitzpatrick saw something that shouldn't exist. On the hill between Bryansford and Moneyscalp, a figure stopped, completely headless, but holding its severed head high in one hand. The head's mouth opened. It called out a name. Fitzpatrick clapped his hands over his ears. If the name was his own, he didn't want to know. When he looked again, the figure had vanished. Days later, a car crashed on that exact hill. A young man died. His name was the one the Dullahan had spoken. This wasn't centuries ago. This happened in modern Ireland. And the Dullahan, Ireland's original Headless Horseman, continues to ride. The Dullahan is death given form. A headless rider on a black horse, dressed in flowing robes, racing through the Irish countryside after dark. He carries his severed head tucked under one arm or held high like a grotesque lantern. The head itself is horrifying. According to storytellers from County Mayo, the flesh has the colour and consistency of mouldy cheese. The mouth, filled with razor-sharp teeth, grins ear to ear, and the eyes dart about constantly like flies, glowing with the phosphorescence of decay. Those eyes can see vast distances. The Dullahan uses his head to scan the countryside, searching for his next victim. When the Dullahan stops riding, someone dies. He can only speak once during his journey, just once. And when he does, he calls out a name, the name of the person whose soul he's come to collect. Once spoken, there's no escape. Sometimes he appears as a lone rider. Other times he drives the Coiste Boda, the death coach. 6 headless black horses pulling a carriage with wheels made from human thigh bones and hollow skulls glowing like lanterns at the front. No lock or gate can bar his path. They burst open as he approaches. Those who watch from windows receive a basin of blood thrown in their faces, or the Dullahan's whip lashing out to tear their eyes from their sockets. A whip made from a human spine. But there is one defense: gold. Even a simple gold pin can drive him away. But this only works if he hasn't come for you. If it's your name he calls, nothing can save you. The accounts follow a chilling pattern, always at night, always near places where death will soon arrive. On December 11th, 1876, a servant at the McNamara estate in Ennistimon heard wheels rumbling down the back avenue, despite knowing no mortal vehicle could be there at that hour. He recognised it immediately, the death coach. He ran ahead, opening 3 gates, then threw himself face down as the coach went clanking past. The next day, news arrived from London. Admiral Sir Burton McNamara had died. In County Cork, Mick Noonan was returning from Ballyduff when he witnessed a black coach drawn by 6 headless horses, driven by a headless coachman dressed entirely in black. The next morning, word spread. Master Rickson of Ballygiblin had suffered a fit and died in the night. And then there's the man travelling between Roundstone and Ballyconneely in County Galway. As darkness fell, he heard hooves pounding behind him, getting closer, faster. The Dullahan was charging toward him. The man would have been overtaken, but he remembered the stories. He dropped a gold-headed pin from his shirt onto the road. There was a roar in the air. When he looked up, the Dullahan was gone. These come from named witnesses, specific locations, documented deaths. The Dullahan appears. Someone dies. To understand the Dullahan, you have to go back 1,500 years, before Christianity reached Ireland. The Irish worshipped Crom Dubh, also known as Crom Dubh, the Crooked One. He was a fertility god whose idol stood at Mag Slecht in County Cavan. A gold figure surrounded by 12 stone idols. Crom Dubh had one demand: blood sacrifice through decapitation. On Samhain, the firstborn of every family and herd were brought to his altar. Their heads were dashed upon the stone. In return, Crom Dubh provided bountiful harvests and healthy cattle. Then came the 6th century. St. Patrick confronted the idol at Mag Slecht. According to legend, Patrick raised his crozier and the golden idol fell face down. The surrounding stone figures sank into the earth. The demon inhabiting the idol was cast into hell. The human sacrifices ended. Christianity spread. The old ways faded, but Crom Dubh had grown accustomed to his annual quota of souls. The god who once demanded decapitated sacrifices refused to be denied. So he transformed. He took physical form, a headless rider carrying his own severed head, a twisted echo of the sacrifices once made in his name. He became the Dullahan and continued claiming lives through the very method that once honoured him. The god became the monster. The monster became death itself. The Dullahan's influence may extend to America's most famous ghost story. In 1820, Washington Irving published The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, featuring a headless horseman in New York. Irving claimed the horseman was a Hessian soldier who lost his head to a cannonball. But scholars have long debated whether Irving borrowed from Irish Dullahan tradition. Irving's parents came from Cornwall, which has its own headless coachman legend. He spent years in Europe, where he would have encountered Celtic folklore. The similarities are striking. Both are headless riders on dark horses who appear at night and bring death. But there's a key difference. Irving's horseman searches for his lost head, driven by personal vendetta. The Dullahan already possesses his head and uses it as a tool. He's not seeking revenge, but performing a duty. Death's duty. The headless horseman archetype appears across European cultures. The Brothers Grimm recorded German versions. Medieval England had Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. But the Dullahan remains unique, a death omen who calls your name with the only word he's allowed to speak. The legend spread with Irish immigrants during the 19th century. Today, the Dullahan appears in films, television, video games, and Halloween celebrations worldwide. Yet in Ireland, particularly in counties Sligo, Down, and Cork, locals still tell stories of encounters, still leave gold coins by their doors, still draw their curtains tight when they hear hooves on dark autumn nights. The Dullahan leaves us with troubling questions. Surprisingly, the Dullahan doesn't appear in the Irish Folklore Commission's archives, the comprehensive collection of authentic Irish oral traditions. The earliest detailed written accounts come from 1828. This raises an uncomfortable possibility. Could the Dullahan be a relatively recent invention rather than an ancient oral tradition? But if it's merely a recent story, how do we explain modern sightings? The geographic specificity, the documented deaths that follow appearances? And why does the Dullahan fear gold, one of the metals Celts most treasured? Gold was associated with the sun, with divinity, with protection. Is this a version of folk memory of something deeper? Perhaps most troubling, why does he still appear? If Christianity ended the sacrifices, what sustains him? And when modern witnesses like W.J. Fitzpatrick report seeing the Dullahan, predicting deaths with eerie accuracy, what are they really encountering? The Dullahan reminds us that some things cannot be stopped, not by locks, not by gates, not by prayers or protections. When death comes riding, it will find you. For over 1,000 years, the Irish have maintained stories about this headless harbinger. They've placed gold by their doors. They've warned their children to stay inside when the hooves begin to thunder. They've treated the Dullahan not as superstition, but as genuine threat. Maybe they know something we've forgotten. Maybe in our modern world, we've sanitized death so thoroughly that we can't recognize its true face anymore. Or maybe there really is something riding the dark roads of Ireland. Something ancient. Something patient. Something carrying its own head like a lantern and calling out names in the night. If you ever find yourself in rural Ireland as darkness falls and you hear the distant thunder of hooves, remember the gold. Remember to cover your ears. And whatever you do, don't look outside. Some questions should remain unanswered. Some names should never be heard. The Dullahan is still riding, and he knows yours.